Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to PhotoBiz Live. This is Andy from the PhotoBiz team, and today I'll be presenting kind of a grab bag of topics. We've got a couple of things to cover, and then we are going to open the floor up for an extended SEO Q&A session. For anyone out there who's not familiar with me, I am PhotoBiz's SEO expert. I run the SEO service here at PhotoBiz. So you may have worked with me through there, or you may have worked with me when I was still an SEO specialist back in the support team. Okay, as we say, today is going to be a bit of a grab bag. We are going to be recording today's webinar, so if you miss anything, if I go too fast, if you just need to review what we discussed today, it will be on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/photobiz. And again, today, since it's just me running the webinar, if you have any problems, just send them in a question or a chat. I will do my best to get to them as we go along. If you know your SEO question off the top, especially if you're not going to be able to stay the full time, go ahead and send your question. I'll go ahead and answer that, and then you can catch it on the replay a little bit later today, or later this week, rather. Sorry. I would love if we could do that fast of a turnaround on post-production, but it just doesn't work like that. Okay, I guess I'm just going to get started then. Don't really need much more of a spiel. All right, so today we're going to start by talking about negative comments and reviews online. All right, so something that, you may know this but not realize it. It may be something you've experienced yourself. I know it's happened to me, but most people who go online and leave comments about a business are more likely to be upset or unhappy with that business than to be absolutely thrilled. It's part of human nature that when we feel like we've been wronged, we're more likely to share it online. Now, that doesn't mean that every review, every comment's going to be negative, but when you're dealing especially with a one-off customer, somebody you're not likely to see again, they're much more likely to vent their grievances publicly. Something that is kind of a hazard of the online community is that review websites, they tend to give more weight to negative reviews than positive reviews. And on the whole, that's going to be because a negative review is more likely to have been someone who actually used your business or service, whereas a positive review may be you've created an account, you're leaving yourself reviews, you've asked all of your friends to give you reviews. So in general, most review websites are more likely to show your negative reviews than your positive reviews. Now, that doesn't mean that this is purely a negative thing. Negative reviews and negative comments can be a net positive for your business. It's all about how you react to them rather than what is actually said. And the title of this slide just kind of points out what a lot of people know is that the loud voices are the ones that drive the conversation. Even if it's a single person out of a group, if that person's shouting, they're going to drive the conversation. So what we try to do is we try to take the tone down, take the volume down, and convert that negativity into a positive. Or if we can't do that, then we at least want to present our business in a very positive light. So the next thing we're going to look at, so the first thing to understand is where the negative comments are coming from. There are three main areas online where you're going to see this happen, and how you react is going to be the same across the board, but the method you react with, it changes depending on how these are done. So the three battlefields we're going to fight on. The first is social media. It's the most obvious one. Going to a business's Facebook page and leaving a nasty comment, tweeting at a company that you're unhappy with them. So it's the most obvious, but thankfully it's the most easiest. It is the easiest to fix because as a business owner, you should have a profile on this social media account that you can respond with as your company. You don't have to speak as yourself. You can respond as a business. Okay, the second type are going to be review sites that allow you as the business owner to respond to the review. Now, really the only main player that does this is going to be Google and Google Plus reviews. Once you have a verified business page on Google Plus, you can actually respond to reviews, whether they've been left specifically on the Google Plus page or more generally as part of Google's reviewing option, which can be accessed directly from search results if you want to. So, like I say, you can reply to these reviews. There's something you can do. Now, there are other websites. Yelp is the big one that comes to mind, where you, as the business owner, don't really have many options. You can pay Yelp money, but for most people, that's not a viable way to deal with a negative comment, is to throw money at it. You know, it's a temporary fix. It doesn't necessarily address the underlying causes, and Yelp has a reputation for strong-arming people. They're not doing anything illegal, but people do say that they feel pressured by Yelp representatives, so it's maybe not a path we want to go down. At that point, you're going to have to call for some backup to get help with that. Okay, now, no matter where we're dealing with these comments, there are 4 things that we need to bear in mind all the time. The first is you have to avoid being defensive. And this one's pretty hard, because if somebody's saying negative things about your work or about your service, your first response generally is going to be to become defensive. How could they say this about me? Why are they saying this about me? You know, why did they make this public instead of messaging me privately? Everybody is different, and everyone has their own method of dealing with their unhappiness. Some people let it build up until they vent. Other people may call you and tell you they're unhappy, and you fix it much faster. All right, the second point is take your ego out of the equation. Separate Andy, the business owner, from Andy, the person who is trying to market his own business. Now, they sound like the same person, and I probably phrased that wrong. Okay, here at PhotoBiz, we tend to, as you may have noticed, we all use our first name and our last initial. And we tend to give full names as, say, Andy R. PhotoBiz. So if I have to respond to someone on Facebook, I'm not going to treat that as Andy R. You know, that's not me. That's not the person I am when I clock out. I am Andy R. PhotoBiz. To anyone who reads this conversation, this review, I have to remember that I represent my business, which is distinct from myself. The third point is something I'm going to be honest with you. I have a hard time remembering this one. Being vindictive, getting back at somebody who, especially if you feel like they said something that was unfair to you. It may feel good, but you look bad. You know, when you're vindictive, when you get somebody, yeah, you got them, but you've also probably lost their business, and you've probably lost some business for some other people who you didn't even know were looking at you. They just saw what happened and didn't approve it. It was off-putting to them. And, you know, in marketing and business and sales, the difference between somebody looking at your website and somebody calling you can be something that is as simple as, I didn't like the way they responded. What if I have a problem? All right, now, and this all kind of ties into number 4, which is respond rationally. If the person is making unreasonable demands, don't insult them. Do your best to handle what they've given you and let the audience decide who won. You don't have to be triumphant. You just have to be positive. Okay, the first we're going to look at is social media, because it's probably the most prevalent and it's the easiest way for you as a business owner to be able to do something. Somebody leaves you a negative comment. Now, this is applying to your business. If you post a senior's sneak preview and it gets negative comments about the person in the work, that's a completely different topic. They're not, you know, they're going after the subject or the work, not you as a business. Those we tend to start with number 4. But if it's an actual review or comment about your business, the first thing what we want to do is we want to engage with the person who's unhappy, and we want to redirect their anger, their negativity, being upset, into a way that makes everybody happy in the end. So if there's a problem with the quality, you know, with the edits you've done, with the way the prints came out, with something being damaged in transit, offer to make it right. you're probably going to take a little bit of a loss on this one, especially if it's, a large canvas order. But by offering to make it right on social media, you have just now, you defeated their negative response, because they came and complained about something, and your immediate response as the business owner was, let me make this right. I don't care how it happened. I don't care why it happened. I want to make it right for you. Number two is more for if they were unhappy with the service you provided, the way you interacted with them, the way things were explained to them. So they don't necessarily have a complaint with the product they've received, but they are concerned about, the way something happened. Oftentimes, one of the very best things you can do is say, is acknowledge that they had an issue with what happened and ask them what you could have done as a business owner to make it better. If they felt that your pricing was confusing, ask them what would simplify it. If they thought that you were rude, sometimes you just have to say, I had a bad day. I am very sorry. How can I make this better? How can I interact better with you? Would you like to come in for another session at no charge because you had this experience? Again, you're probably going to take a loss, but in the end, you're generating positive publicity for your website, for your business. You are the one who makes it right when there's a problem. Okay, number three. Now, this one is not necessarily a strategy so much as a happy occurrence. When you have an active and engaged following on social media, you can often find they will jump to your defense before you can even handle it. And one of the nicest things why this is so wonderful, and if it happens to your business or for your business, you want to continue doing this, is it shows that this person who had a negative experience or a negative comment is not indicative of what it's like to work for your business. Maybe you had a bad day. Maybe they misunderstood what they were getting. Maybe it was something that was entirely beyond your control, like the FedEx truck got into a wreck and suddenly the nice portrait is destroyed. Well, that's nothing you could have handled. So if you get a negative comment and you see that your other customers are responding for you, let them do it. Make sure you stop into the thread, you reply to the tweet, acknowledging that you are aware that this is happening. Still go with number one or two, try to make it right. But by leaving that negative review that was responded to positively, that person's just advertised your business for you by showing how many happy customers you have. Now, this fourth one, it's a bit of a nuclear option, but sometimes it's unavoidable. In some social media areas, you can delete things as a page administrator. Somebody puts a post on your wall, you can delete it. Somebody makes a nasty comment on an image, you can delete it. Now, with Facebook specifically, if you delete someone's post, that post is gone. Facebook retains a cache for legal purposes, but once you've deleted that comment, nobody can find that comment again. That may seem like, well, that's okay, that somebody left me a negative comment, I'll just delete it. The downside of that is it looks like you're trying to hide. Everybody who saw that will then notice it's missing. If that person notices that you've deleted their negative comment, you can end up getting a worse review because it looks like you've tried to avoid it. You've admitted fault. Now, if it's really bad, or it's something that's just completely out of place, this person is not willing to work with you at all, delete the message, but do your best to contact that person. If you've got a phone number, an email address, if you can send them a Facebook message, let them know that you deleted their comment and why you did it. And it can be something as simple as, I'm really sorry, we don't seem to be able to work this out, but what you wrote on my wall is you're attacking other customers of mine. You're insulting the reputation of my business. I still want to work with you. I still want to make sure you're happy, but I just cannot have that on my business wall. You know, like I say, it's not the ideal circumstance, but in some cases it has to be done. Okay, so I guess, like we said, we'll move on to reviews that you can reply to, Google Plus being the big one. Okay, same strategy here as with social media. You can't delete, so that one's gone, but easy steps. Make it right. If you can fix it, fix it. If you can't make it right, offer them something instead. A free session, a free iPhone case, something tangible that they can have that makes them feel better. Let others speak for you. Now, this one's a little bit different in that you won't often find people replying directly to reviews, but you can, and I have seen this used very effectively, when somebody new leaves you a positive review, they can reference the negative review. Now, obviously, we don't want to see clients attacking other clients, saying, well, this person's out of their mind, they're obviously a stupid person. That's not what we want to see. But the most effective way I've seen this done is, while this person had a bad experience, it really does seem to have been just that person on that day, because my experience was. So reference that one person had a bad time, but that it's an outlier and not a constant with you. But again, we always want to, if possible, reply publicly in a way that will be left up. So that, let's say somebody sees you have 5 Google reviews, 4 at 5-star, 1 at 1-star. And that 1-star review is somebody who was unhappy with the quality of what they received, but there's a reply from you offering to reprint it. Well, suddenly, okay, well, they've got 4 people that loved it. The 1 person that didn't like it, they went above and beyond to make it right. Okay, that's a business I trust. Okay, now this one causes a lot of frustration, and there's not a lot to be done. When there are reviews that you cannot reply to, Yelp, again, big area for this. All right, it's frustrating for you as a business owner because there's nothing you can physically do to directly impact this. You have to rely on other people. So encourage positive reviews on reviewing websites, whether it's TripAdvisor, if you do destination work, if it's Yelp because you're local. Encourage people who like your service, who give you, if they say it was so great working with you, hey, would you mind leaving me a review? The second step of this is make leaving a review as easy as possible. If you want people to leave a review on your Google Plus page, put a link in a thank you email to the Google Plus page. Put a link to your Yelp page. Make it so that they can do this as easily as possible. Now, unlike the other 2 options, this is a long-term fix. This is not going to immediately get rid of that negative review, but it pays dividends in the long run. Now, almost every reviewing site runs a very general filter that if your business sees a sudden spike in the number of positive or negative reviews, most of those reviews will not count. Most of these sites also have rules where you as a business owner can't pay for positive reviews. You can't solicit reviews, especially from people who aren't your customers. So when a site goes from 1 review to 20 reviews in the course of 2 days, most of those reviews won't count. So encourage people to leave reviews, but don't immediately go out and email 50 people saying, hey, leave me a positive review, because that's going to make it look like you're gaming the system, which you kind of are. Okay, like I said in the beginning, negative reviews tend to have more credence. Most of these review sites, they're kind of like Google with its search results, in that their business model relies on you being able to trust them. And so when they bury negative reviews, if you have a bad time, you're going to trust that site less. Now, one of the other criteria a lot of sites use is the history of the commenter on that site. So if you've never left a Yelp review in your life and you leave a 5-star review that's 1 sentence long, odds are you're going to be filtered out because it doesn't look like you're an active participant. It's really easy. Maybe the owner of the business sat you down in front of a computer and had you make a Yelp profile for 5 minutes and that was it. So if you want to get reviews, look for people who are already active on those sites. Their reviews carry a lot more weight. If you notice your customer has a Gmail account, consider asking for a Google Plus review. Every Gmail account has a Google Plus page. Google has tied those together. You cannot have one without the other. You know, like I say, it's make it easy, but understand that a huge flood of 4-star reviews, 4 out of 4, not going to be that beneficial because it looks like you farmed them. Okay, enough about depressing negative reviews. Now we're on to things that will hopefully have some positive reviews. New projects we are working on that I can talk about today is we're going to have a new release schedule. If you've been with us for a while, you know that we tend to release templates one at a time. We'll occasionally release some new fonts, some new backgrounds, but they do tend to be one at a time and over the course of a month. We're changing that. The next thing is we are looking for webinar presenters. That can be anybody. You know, if you're a PhotoBiz client and you have something to say, you have a topic that you feel like you can bring something new to, or you just want to try your hand at it, let us know. Okay, and we're starting a new video series, calling them Biz Talks. Going to cover that. I'm particularly proud of that one because that one is kind of my baby. So, all the updates all the time. We're going to do all of our new releases in one day. So that's going to be the new templates for the month, the new fonts for the month, and the new backgrounds for the month. What we want to do is we don't want you to have to check in every week to see what's new. We want you to be able to once a month say, okay, it's release day for PhotoBiz. And if you're in the mood for a new template, check out all the new templates for the month. If you're not thrilled with the font, check out the new fonts. Same with backgrounds. That way, we want to simplify it for you. We want you to check in once, know what's new, and then be done. Okay, webinars. Obviously, you're sitting in a webinar right now. You know, we do, at the current schedule, we are doing 2 guest webinars per month, usually the first and third weeks of the month. Now, what we're looking for is people who want to present a webinar. If you have a topic, great. If you don't have a topic, but you want to give it a shot, that's fine too. We have topics. We have lists and lists and lists of topics. If you thought about, you know, trying to become a speaker, you know, you've done the tour of the conventions, WPPI, imaging, sync, if you do seniors, and you want to be one of those speakers, webinars are a great place to try it out because it gives you practice. You have a live audience, but they're not staring there. If somebody coughs, I'll tell you, you don't hear it. If you've ever heard me and Brett Jarnigan, it's kind of weird when you're used to public speaking to do a webinar because there is no feedback. So if you're interested, if you have expressed interest in the past, please express interest again. It's always really beneficial when we have new people and we have new faces, or we're reminded of faces, because there's a lot of paperwork and your name can get lost in the shuffle. And we have openings. We would love to fill them. We would love to help you. You know, if you were at Imaging this year, you may have seen Jeff Shaw speak. Jeff came to PhotoBiz, then we discovered he was a speaker, and then he guest blogged for us, and we've just sent off a bit of content for him. I can't announce that quite yet, but that's going to be announced on the PhotoBiz blog, and hopefully, you know, we'll have links and you can see what we did for him. But we want to partner with you. You know, we want to provide your website and help you out with your business. So if you're interested, send us an email, webinars@photobiz.com. That's webinars, plural, @photobiz.com. If you forget that for some reason, you can always email me directly, andrewr@photobiz.com. Andy R works too. Andrew R is technically my email address. So, like I say, give it a subject line that's a little bit more than webinars. You know, so idea for a webinar, topic for a webinar. I would like to do a webinar. That way we know why you're emailing us. And I will do my best to get back to you quickly, let you know what's going on, but we do need some interest first before we can move on to the next phase of this new project. Anybody who has kids about my age or is about my age will know that PhotoBiz Explains It All is not the actual title, but it was too good to pass up. So what are Biz Talks? Well, they're talks about business. Okay, so what they are going to be, though, is videos by the PhotoBiz team. You're going to see me. You'll probably see Chelsea, anybody else, honestly, that I can drag in front of my video camera. You will hopefully get to see a presentation from them. What are they going to be? Well, they're going to be educational videos. Basically, they're topics that we feel that we want you to know something about these topics as a business owner, as somebody who runs an online business, useful information. But we don't really have enough for a full-fledged 45-minute webinar. So, Biz Talks. When are they coming? They're very, very soon, and I'm actually not allowed to say any more than that, lest they string me up. Okay, and the other why. Sometimes you're curious about a topic and you're not free Tuesday from 2 to 3 p.m. and you forget about it and you don't want to, you have to dig through the YouTube page to find that webinar that was 3 months ago that you don't remember. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to give you some Biz Talks. For anyone who's interested, the inspiration for these came from SPTV and Moz.com's Whiteboard Fridays. Like I say, those are, if you're familiar with either one of those, that's kind of the style we're going with. If you're not, well, we'll take a look at those in a little bit. So this has some involvement for you too, and the involvement that we would love to see from you guys is we need to know what topics you need to know about. Do you have questions about running an online business? Do you have questions about running a business in general? Do you need help crunching numbers? Do you need help organizing yourself? Anything that you can think of, anything that, you had an idea, hey, I'd like to know more about this, and you don't have the time to do the research yourself, send us those ideas. We have time to research, and if you have that question, odds are there's somebody else out there who's also wondering just that thing. So hopefully we will be updating this email address, but if you have ideas or if it's just a question that you'd like to see somebody at PhotoBiz tackle, send them to us. Again, webinars, plural, at photobiz.com or Andrew R. at photobiz.com with the topics. Give it, subject of Biz Talk subject, Biz Talk question, something that lets us separate it from the webinar questions. In the future, I'd love to be able to open this up and have talks with our clients, whether that's you're coming through Greensboro and want to stop by the offices, some people do, or whether you film it yourself and send it to us. We'll look at expanding that if these, if you like them, we do more of them. If you don't like them, then we don't. So it's really up to you guys, the customers, the clients, the people who we hope benefit from this information, to let us know whether or not it's working or to give us topics. Well, thank you very much, Pam. I just had a comment from Pam, who is an old SEO client of mine, that she will give us plenty of topics, and I couldn't be happier. If you guys can overload me with work, I would be so happy it doesn't actually make any sense. Okay, now that I have talked social media and have bored you with new projects, now comes the time where I open the floor to you. What are you wondering about? Anybody? I know we've had a fair number of people join us since we started. If you're not familiar with me, I'm the SEO specialist here at PhotoBiz. SEO Expert. I forget my own title sometimes. And really now I'm just going to keep up this patter until I get some questions coming in because, well, we are at the Q&A session. And okay, so Barbara's first and then Ava. Okay, Barbara's question is, she found an old negative post on an academic feedback site. Now, what the SEO specialists have told you is correct. It does take time for new sites to catch up, and especially if it's a very popular academic review site, that site will have a lot of traffic. So it may not necessarily be your page that gets a lot of traffic, but if that site gets a lot of traffic, it has established its place in the index. Now, the best thing I would do, especially if it's not tied to your business, is to send an email to the webmaster of that academic feedback site and ask them if there's anything they can do to assist you with this. Actually, and Barbara, I'm going to send you my email address. If you can, send me send me a link and I'll take a look at it specifically. Okay, this question is from Ava. What are 3 basic concrete things we can do to increase our SEO? Okay, 3 basic things that will apply to any website. Put metadata on every single page that lets you. That's going to be any page that has an SEO tab or an SEO button. And I'll caveat that. Make it different. Make it specific to that page. Don't copy paste. Copy and paste is the antithesis of good SEO. Okay, the second concrete thing you can do is set up a Google Plus profile page. Set it up as a local business page. If you've got Google Local, this doesn't apply to you, but that is something you have to have set up in the past. Moving forward, a Google Plus local business page is wonderful. Create the page, give it all the information it asks for, hours, about you, upload 5 photos, especially if you're a photographer, upload 10. All of those things, all of the information you put in there is carried through to Google search results. It will tell people if you are open when they are looking for you. The third thing, put more text on the front of your website. For the longest time, blogs have been, in common thought, blogs are the greatest thing to ever happen to SEO. What people don't necessarily understand is blogs are only good if you're posting content that's related to what you're trying to sell and what you're trying to rank for, and if people are reading it. One thing every single SEO client I've ever had will tell you I've said to them is put more text on the website. Every word that a visitor can read on your website counts as content for your site. So make an FAQ page, answer questions that you normally get from customers on your website. The big benefit there is not putting the word photography or portraits or seniors on your website 800 times. It's putting words that are associated with that. When a kid and their parents are looking for senior portraits, they're also looking for college entrance exams. They're looking for college essays. They're looking for graduation parties. So if you are talking to seniors, tell them that while they're prepping for college entrance exams, to take a day and have a senior portrait session. It'll help you clear your mind. It'll help you refocus and get ready for those tests. If you want to look great on your graduation night, make sure that you have these 3 components. None of that actually relates to being a photographer, but it relates to what those people have searched for, and that will make you rank better for that person. Okay, question from Pam. What happens if 2 photographers use exactly the same SEO? What determines their rankings in the placement? Okay, now by the exact same SEO, I'm pretty sure what you mean is the exact same metadata. So if you and your competitor have the exact same metadata on your website, what's going to determine who ranks better is going to be everything else that accounts for your business online. How engaging your Facebook page is. Pam, you're really good at that. If you'd like to see an example of an active and engaged Facebook page, Pam Bell Photography. She does a wonderful job. I'm honestly incredibly proud of what Pam does because it's very, very good and everybody can take a lesson from it. So it's going to be how active your social media is. It's going to be whether or not you're blogging about things that are related to your business. If you blog about what you had for breakfast and your competition blogs about the best new camera for a starting photographer, they will win every time. It will come down to certain intangible things like the traffic metrics on your website. Do people spend more time on your site than on your competition's? Did they, and now that's not necessarily the chronological time, did they access more pages? You know, did they go to 2 pages on your site and close it, while on your competitor's page they actually looked at 6 because they looked at a couple of galleries and the pricing information and then went to the contact page. So SEO is much, much more than just that back end of your website these days. Okay, Kelly, again, I hope I kind of got this on Ava's site. or Ava's question, but the best practices for SEO on your PhotoBiz website. So again, big things. Set up analytics. That's something I forgot. That's not going to directly help your ranking, but it will help you understand what people are doing on your website. Fill out every meta section you have access to. So, just as an example, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull up my demo account here at PhotoBiz and show you what I mean, because I wonderfully have access. He is in Thailand these days, so I will not log into his account, and I forgot my own password. Okay, so if you have Flash Plus, what I mean is, let me open this up so I can make sure everybody's with me here. Okay, it's this button right here, Search Engines. This applies to the website overall. Most of your pages will also have this, a search engine optimization section. Fill it out. Okay, let's see. Let's go back here and watch as Andy clicks the wrong button. Okay, let's say you have a PhotoBiz content site or blog. Here, search engines. Now, this publish your sitemap, this is what you do when you've made big changes. This is where you put your analytics. In terms of the metadata, it's done page by page. Now, these are nice. They have an SEO tab. Auto SEO. Ideally, you should never be using auto SEO. You should be putting in custom SEO data, and again, same three areas. And last but not least, if you have our new HTML5 portfolio sites, same button, SEO, no option for auto. So that's going to be best practice right there, is Andy finding the right slide. I was hoping somebody would ask this. Okay, Sharon is asking, how do you find out the keywords that your competitors use? This one's fun. Okay, now metadata is what we would call the foundation of any website. It's what the search engines use to understand what makes a website. So how do we find out what someone is using for their metadata? Now, Pam, you've asked a couple of questions, so I'm going to pull up your website here, plus I know your metadata. So how do we do it? Well, as you see, I'm using Firefox. What you can't see is right now I'm pressing Control and U. Now, if I was on a Mac, I would be using Command U. It's the same no matter what your browser is or what system. Command for Macs, Control for PCs, and the letter U. Now, that is the keystroke for View Page Source. Well, I've got a big blank page. What do I do? Well, now I use Control or Command F, again, Mac PC, and search for meta. Okay, now this is going to take you to their meta section. Now here we see title. This is Pam's meta title. Description. This is Pam's meta description. Keywords. These are her keywords. Now, that's a PhotoBiz website. That's going to be the same for all of our products. So let's look at a different website. We're going to do dentists. Okay, so here we have a random website. I'm not sure who does this website. It's literally the first option for dentists in Greensboro. Again, we're going to press Control U and we pull this up. Well, hey, we've got a lot more. It looks different now, but we still have our title, we still have our description, and we still have our keywords. So that's how you find out what somebody's using. Now, each page may have different metadata. Now, let's see if we go to Our Office, pull it up again. Okay, they do use slightly different metadata per page, which again is what you should be doing as well. So, long and short of it, Control U, Control F, they are your friends. Okay, Tyrone asks, he doesn't really understand SEO. Where can you find out more information? Well, depending on how much you want to read, Moz.com is going to be about the best place to go. It's moz.com. Now, if you've been doing this for a while, you may think, you may be familiar with SEO Moz. Same company, different name. Now, the reason I say depending on how much you want to read, this website, this company is an SEO company for people who do SEO. So you can come here to their blogs and you can read them. But I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of what they talk about is either going to be advanced SEO or SEO as it applies to major national and multinational companies. Okay, so why would I send you here? Well, they have this Learn button, and they have this Beginner's Guide to SEO, and they've added a Beginner's Guide to Social Media. Now, they're long. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a lot of information to cover with SEO. So if you're not as thrilled about, reading I want to say it might be 45 plus pages on the Beginner's Guide to SEO, one of the best things you can do is call PhotoBiz. Call our support staff and use the phrase, "I would like to speak to an SEO specialist." Now, what I would really strongly recommend doing for you to get a benefit out of this is don't say, "Hey, I've got 5 minutes free now. I'll call and ask." Call in, say you would like to speak to an SEO specialist and you would like to schedule a time to speak to them. Speaking as somebody who's done that job, if I know that you and I are going to have a phone call at 2 p.m. on Friday, when 2 p.m. comes around, I am ready to talk to you about SEO for your business. And that's something that a lot of people tend to gloss over, is there are beginner's guides, there's general information, but having somebody, an SEO specialist who wants to talk to you about your business and what you should be doing will give you so much more benefit for your time than calling in on a random day of the week at a random time and having to take who answers the phone, because you're not going to have your questions ready. You're not going to know where to go with this. So, like I say, call, send a ticket, schedule something with an SEO specialist, and you benefit greatly. Also expect for it to take about an hour. You know, I would say put an hour and a half aside. Give yourself 10 minutes before you make the call, before you're expecting the call. Get yourself ready. Get your site pulled up. Have something to take notes on. After the call, take 20 minutes. Let it digest. Don't try and immediately go out and do something new. You need some time for the information to sink in. And during that 20 minutes, if you have something that you are not sure about, make a note of it. Come back to it. Email that SEO specialist you talk to. Say, hey, after our call, this came up, or I didn't understand this. Can you explain it? Think about it like this. You are working with someone when you do this rather than getting information from someone. And when you work with them, you will retain the knowledge better and you'll get more out of it. Sorry if I got a bit extended on that one. That one's near and dear to my heart. Let's see. Some kind of guidance on how to okay, Nick wants to know some basic guidance on those 3 areas. Now, honestly, one of the best things you can do is go to youtube.com/PhotoBiz. PhotoBiz, I hope I didn't have anything all that embarrassing in my history there. Okay, come here. Wow, sorry for the pause. I forgot that's on autoplay, and I nearly deafened myself. Okay, I'd like to point out that one of the members of our marketing team, Joanne, has done a wonderful job organizing these. We have an SEO and a social media section. The one I would like to point you to is actually what I believe is the very first webinar I ever did here, Make SEO Work for You. That webinar, it's kind of long. You can see it's 53 minutes long. I do cover a lot of the SEO basics there, and it is always there for you to review. If you make it through that one, here's another great one, Advanced SEO. You'll notice that that was actually a collaborative effort between me and Jeff on account of I had the webinar ready and my daughter got me sick on the day, and Jeff thankfully stepped up and made it work. So those are going to be really beneficial to you. I would say that's further reading. Okay, but for today, we'll get logged back in, and yay, Firefox. You tell it to remember it once, and it remembers it from here on out. One day I'll have my own profile back. Okay, no matter what kind of SEO we're doing, there's 3 options: the title, the description, and the keywords. Okay, in terms of how well you rank, whether you're number 1 or number 100, only one field matters. It is this page title or website title. Google has told us, so this is confirmed, the page title is the only one of these three fields that affects your ranking positively. Now, you can hurt yourself in the keywords, but the page title is the only thing that positively ranks you. And it helps you rank when the words you use are included in the words they've searched for. So home does me absolutely no good. However, if I am an affordable dentist in Greensboro, well, right there, if you search for, like I did here, dentist in Greensboro, all three of those words are considered an exact match, and my site will rank marginally higher. Now, again, to clarify, I did say marginally higher. There's so many factors. I think Bing uses 140 acknowledged factors. Google uses more. Everything plays a part. So there's not going to be one thing that's going to make or break you. It's going to be a whole lot of things built together. Okay, so what you want to do here is you need to come up with the 2 or 3 words that you are competing for, whether it's senior portraits, maternity photography, newborn portraits. You need to pick 2 or 3 words that you want to focus on. And include those in your title. Okay, your meta description. It's a description of you and your business. You get, I call it your 5-second marketing blurb. You get 2 sentences to convince somebody to click your link. A well-written description will not help you rank higher, but it will help get the clicks. And in studies, a website ranked between 2 and 5 with a good description will beat a website ranked number 1 without a description or with a poor description, because those sites are more trustworthy. Now, meta keywords. This is your, okay, don't let keywords fool you. These are 2 to 3 word phrases. So newborn, comma, portrait, comma, photography. Okay, in Google's eyes, I am competing for 3 distinct phrases: newborn, portrait, and photography. So I've spread myself very thin, and I am competing with an enormous number of websites. How many, outside of photography, how many businesses want people to find them for newborns? Well, Babies R Us, anybody who makes diapers, anybody who makes clothing for newborns, they're all competing for this word. Same thing with portrait. With photography, you're competing against the Wikipedia entry for photography. On the other hand, if I make my keyword newborn portrait photography, well, I've eliminated Babies R Us and the lady who crochets toques for newborns. I've eliminated the Wikipedia page on photography. Now I am competing for the work I do. Single keywords, unless it's your brand name like PhotoBiz, are basically useless. There is simply too much competition for you to rank on them. And it's not like the olden days, the late 90s, where having a bunch of keywords is a good thing. At this point, having a bunch of keywords is called keyword stuffing. It's a penalty. It's not a visible manual penalty, as I'm making air quotes with my fingers that you can't see. Those are the ones that Google says, hey, we're penalizing you because you did this. Those are easy to fix. You fix what they told you. This is an algorithm penalty. You don't see those. So 7 to 15 phrases at the top. Okay, so like I said, that's the quick and dirty. For the extended, go watch the webinars. I really can't say much more than that. Okay, metadata phrases for a wedding photographer. This is from Ava. So like I said, wedding photography, you're probably going to do, I tend to go wedding and in, I swear I can spell. Okay, you'll notice I am switching between photography and photographer. They are treated as the same word by Google in terms of businesses. I tend to prefer photography, But especially if, like, hey, what do you know, Pam, your business name is also your name, Pam Bell Photography, well, she would use photographer because she is a photographer. If you have a studio, go with photography. Okay, metadata for wedding photographers, wedding and engagement, you know, I'm sure there's a photographer who does just weddings and doesn't do engagements, but I have yet to meet that person. So probably going to include engagements there. Your meta description, you're talking to brides, most likely, so talk to your brides. In your keywords, you want to account for your local terms. Wedding photography is always a good one. For Greensboro, Bog Garden wedding photography. The Bog Garden is a local landmark here. People get married there. If I'm getting married there, I want somebody who knows how to shoot in Bog Garden, not a chapel. You know, if they know both, wonderful. If not, I had an outdoor wedding. There's a whole lot of lens flare. I didn't know any better. I'm going to be honest with you. So that's the kind of metadata and phrases you want to use. Things that, when we talk about meta, you know, where it says meta on the back end of your website, it should always be you, what you offer, what you do. When we talk about content, which is your, please tell me I have one, I do, that's this here. You know, it's wonderfully labeled the content tab. We want to include phrases that are associated with it, like bridesmaids dresses are a wonderful addition to the detail shots for your wedding. Okay, in that phrase, I got bridesmaids, I got dresses, I got detail shots, and I got weddings in one sentence. I didn't stuff it. It's natural. If somebody comes to my website, that's something I'm okay with them reading because they know I know how to do a wedding. Okay, Nick wants a couple of examples, and I hope I'm giving you good examples, but I do want to, you know, I don't know what part of my speech I was in when let's see. Okay, we actually do have these here for the formatting. Now, there are two big things you'll notice. This character right here is called an in dash. Now, what you want to do is your titles are limited by the number of pixels they use. You get roughly 70 characters, but that varies depending on what letters you use. Obviously, a W takes up a significant, a larger number of pixels than a capital I. Now, the in dash, this right here, was very popular. You know, it's roughly grammatically correct, but it's a good separator of a business name and a keyword. Well, since Google applied that pixel limit, that is 2 to 3 pixels. That's 1. This is called the vertical pipe, or simply the pipe. On any keyboard, it's the key right above your enter key, shift, and that key will create this character. Now, some people try to cheat and use a capital I. Please do not do that. Google will treat that letter I as a letter I. The pipe is a neutral character. It's there. It's a graphic delineation, but it's not positive or negative. Website description, 2 to 3 sentences in an About Us format. Now, About Us or About the page. Your galleries, say that these are your wedding galleries. These are your senior galleries. This is my, here's a collection of senior athlete portraits, if you're that specific. Keywords, okay. The only character that should ever appear in your keywords is a comma. These are, if you're familiar with like Excel, this is a CSV. These are comma separated values. That means no question marks, no exclamation points, no periods. Please, please do not end with a period. That can, Google crawlers do not like that in any way, shape, or form. So, type your phrases, put a comma between each, do not end with a comma. That's the proper format. Okay. Jim has asked, he let Moz review his site. It showed his PhotoBiz site has no header tags. You don't worry about that. Header tags are, I'm not going to say they're useless, but they serve the same purpose as that page title section. You'll notice here right now in my control panel it says website title. And if we go to web pages, you'll notice that it says page title. The header tag, for those of you who know coding, these are header tags. And they go from H1 to H6. So they are going to be, and here's what they do. Now, if you do not have metadata, a meta title on each page of your website, these serve in place of your meta titles. Now, header 1, biggest text possible, header 2, slightly smaller, so on and so forth, down into header 6. They're purely organizational. They tell the browser how to display what's important, what's not. So like I say, fill out your page title. Don't worry about your no header tag. They serve the same functional purpose in terms of SEO. Okay, so Ava's last question, how can you be even more specific than newborn portrait photography? You really can't unless you can apply something to that. Depending on where you are and what people are searching for, and especially depending on your target market, you can use qualifiers. You can be an affordable newborn photographer. You can be best newborn photographer. You can even be an award-winning newborn photographer. These are what we call qualifier words. Outside of an official top 10 ranking, there's no way to concretely say, I am the best newborn photographer. Now, you can obviously be an award-winning photographer. Personally, I always find that kind of odd because your award could be the world's best mommy. I mean, that's an award. You won it. You're an award-winning newborn photographer. I'm an internationally recognized stage actor. Do I put that on my resume? No, because I appeared in 3 shows in Europe for my college. Technically, yes, I have been seen internationally. If you try to find me for that, you will never find me because, well, like I say, I'm kind of playing with the words there. I hope that answered the question. Okay, well, I see. Oh, almost got to do my chant. Okay, just so everybody knows, we have gone a little bit over. As long as you still have questions, I don't mind staying. But again, if you have to go, we are recording all of this. It will all be available. Okay, Nick actually brings up a great point. And you'll notice I caveat a lot of things, and a lot of things are dependent upon other things. That's because, well, SEO gets kind of confusing. So Nick wants to know, I said don't repeat keywords through your pages. Now, what I'm about to tell you is going to contradict that. Okay, when you have a global section, so this is only going to be HTML5 and Flash HTML, this is not content sites. You have your global metadata. This is your most generic area. Put everything that applies to your website as a whole. Now, when you come over here to web pages, you want to be specific to that page. Now, the home page and your metas should be the same. That's the only place you should do a direct copy and paste. But I don't like to open with that because then people misunderstand, they stop listening. So this page, your home page, should match this metas. The rest of your website, you want to repeat keywords that are appropriate to that page. What I don't want to see, and what I have seen, and what hurts my heart is this. Okay, that's the title from my home page, so I come over here, and I'm bored. Okay, there's that page. And there's that page. Okay, and then we come over here and we do it with our description. Now, what this does is Google comes and reviews my website, and it sees 3 pages on my website that the metadata says are the exact same page. I look like I have created extra pages to make my site rank better. That's not what I've done. I've got 3 distinct pages here. But because the metadata is what tells Google, this is what I, as the business owner, am claiming this page represents. I've said, hey, look, my website's just a whole bunch of the same page repeated over and over again. You're going to hurt yourself. So repeating words that are appropriate for that page is fine. Just don't. Exact copies are killers. Okay, Jim wants to know if the images on your galleries are indexed by Google. I will tell you that no, they're not. One of the things here we do at PhotoBiz is we provide right-click protection. And what we've discovered is right-click protection and Google image indexing, not compatible. So again, that's why, especially for photographers, the SEO section of your galleries is so important. Now, what that also means is that naming them, keyword naming your images, not going to help you for this. Now, if you have a blog, this is something very specific to this product. If you have a PhotoBiz blog, I really hope this is a decent post. Oh, wouldn't you know it? Awesome. Okay, I do have some there. All right. Okay, so using a blog, I have my image here. Now, you can click here, click on, okay, so that everybody saw. This alt text is what Jim is asking about. With the blog, you can include alt text. Give a name to it. This, because I know the photographer this came from, is Modern Indian Wedding Overlooking Bay. Now, the bay's got a name, and ideally I would put the name of that bay, and that will be kicked through to Google and can show you up for there. Okay, Pam, I'm sorry, I will not be at WPPI. They do not let me out of the building. Not sure why, but it's really nothing. I'm not a member of the trade show team, so I will not be at WPPI. To anyone who is at WPPI, go to the PhotoBiz booth. Look for a gentleman. He'll be going by the name of Vance. Pick on him mercilessly. I share an office with him. Just do that for me. Or not, it's up to you. But if it does happen, please tell them that Andy sent you. That way I will have something to laugh about when he comes back and pelts me with things. Okay, Ava's got a question about high competition. Okay, this is where everything else online comes into play. If you're trying to be a wedding photographer in Atlanta, odds of you cracking that top 10 are going to be pretty low in the short term. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's just one of those things that when it's a highly competitive market, odds are your competition has been optimizing, and they've got a foundation that you're going to have to beat. So a lot of what you will find is useful is linking to other websites. When you get work, find those people that you're working with, caterers, florists, limo drivers, DJs. Link your websites together. A bunch of small businesses linked together providing services that their customers all need can break into those big areas because everybody's sending traffic, they're sending links. It helps. Social media is also going to be good. Get your current customers to share on your Facebook page. Build up word of mouth. A lot of the time in highly competitive markets, the percentage of your traffic that comes from search engines is going to be pretty low and fairly branded. And when we talk about branded search, if you search for website provider and you come to PhotoBiz, that's an organic hit. If you search for PhotoBiz and come to PhotoBiz, that's a branded hit. You came to PhotoBiz because you were looking for PhotoBiz. So what I would honestly look at is the things that aren't SEO but are SEO. So that's going to be your word of mouth engagement, your social media engagement. Don't feel like you've got to edit your metadata every 5 days to eke one more point out of it. Do the other things. Start writing a blog. Encourage people to read your blog. Give them something to read. One of the biggest things I tell people is blogs should be stories. It's hard to read a blog about somebody getting married that you don't know. But if that story is about how this couple had the absolute worst luck on their wedding day, cars broke down, a rainstorm came through, rafters collapsed, and in the end it was an awesome wedding because of all of that, or in spite of all of that. Well, I can read that. That's a story. I'm invested. Not every session's going to have a story like that, but if you can give one, all the better. Nick, he sent a thank you, and he says he has a lot of changes to make. And one thing I'd like to point out is when you make changes with SEO, the minimum time for Google to re-index your site, according to them, is 2 days. So if you make a change to your website today, don't expect to see any kind of positive result or negative result until Thursday. When I'm running the service, I do a 1 to 2 week review, just because you want to make sure that everything's settled. Now, if you're doing a massive overhaul, go ahead and get it all done and then publish. Make sure you've gotten all of your changes done and then publish it. When you come back to review, if it's not doing what you wanted to, change one thing and then let that settle. One of the big problems we see in SEO is you overhaul the website and you see some positive, but it's not great. So you go back in and you re-overhaul it, and now you're doing somewhat better. Well, it's great that you're doing somewhat better, but we don't know why. You know, if you changed all of the metadata and the content, we don't know whether it was the metadata change, the content change. We don't know. But if, you know, overhaul week 1, week 3, update some metadata. Week 4, okay, well, that didn't seem to do much. Update the content. Oh, well, that hurt. Okay, we'll go back to the way it was. One thing at a time. Okay, Sandy wants to know, in the metadata field, looks like we're talking meta keywords here, is it acceptable for senior photography, high school senior photography? That right there is not stuffing. Stuffing, I get a little bit enthusiastic warning against this, because when it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. But what you're going to be looking for, stuffing, is senior photography, high school senior photography, high school senior portrait photography, senior portrait photography, senior portraits, high school senior portraits, year 12 senior portraits, senior pictures, senior, so on and so forth. That's stuffing. Doing senior photography and high school senior photography, that's covering your bases. Anecdotally, I know that at least in one area of Wisconsin, senior pictures is the most searched term. So, and that can actually change things, you know. Find out how people in your area search. And it can be colloquialisms, you know. It can be senior pictures as opposed to senior portraits. If that's what people are using, that should be in your meta titles. All right, everybody. So, I think that's it. We're going to say going once, going twice. All right, we're going to wrap it at that today. Just a reminder, if you'd like to try your hand at a webinar, webinars at photobiz.com. If you have a question about business, any aspect of your business, or having a business online, we're looking for topics for our new Biz Talk series, which will be coming out very, very soon. Also, webinars at photobiz.com. If you're going to WPPI, look for our booth. I do believe we're going to be having in-person support. Obviously, everybody, thank you. I had a lot of fun today. This seemed to be pretty popular. I'll look at getting another, you know, Q&A on the webinar schedule. I feel like everybody does benefit from these because there is a lot of information. A recording will be up on youtube.com/photobiz. You should probably go there anyway if you're interested in SEO information. We have a section devoted to SEO information, so that's always wonderful. Be sure to check out our blog and watch your email for updates about our future webinars. The next webinar will be Cross-Training Your Business with Kaylin Henderson. It's going to be next Tuesday, February 18th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, everyone, that concludes today's episode of PhotoBiz Live. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again.